Good afternoon, everyone. In our lecture series, we will be discussing about the previous year questions every day through this video format where we will be discussing about the question, what is the context of the question, how do we present the question, and how do we provide a model answer such that we will be providing an effective answer for the given question. So, starting our session today, right now, we are discussing about the 2024 General Studies Mains Question Paper. 2024 General Studies Mains Question Paper, which was held in last year, September. See, the last year, September Mains General Studies Paper 1 questions are being discussed right now. We will be discussing the question number 1, which is related to history. See, the very first question is related to history from General Studies Paper 1. Let us read the question. Underline the changes in the field of economy and society from the Rig Vedic period to the later Vedic period. See, here understand clearly. The question is specifically asking about the changes in the field of economy and society from Rigvedic to later Vedic period. What is the main demand of the question? The demand is to address the changes in economy and society from Rigvedic to later Vedic period. See, this is a very basic question because we don't have any directive. Simply they asked about understanding and presenting the changes from Rigvedic to later Vedic period. There is no specific directives like explain, enumerate, differentiate, or critically analyze. So this is a very straight question which can yield greater marks for effective presentation. Presentation is key because everybody knows the answer. Everybody has effective content for this type of questions. The key lies in how do we present the answer. Now, starting with the answer, first we need to explain, or in the introduction, we need to give a glimpse of the period or of the context. See, the introduction speaks about the transition from Rigvedic to the later Vedic period, highlighting on the chronology, the period. See, the period is very important in history. We need to mention exact dates or the time period for accuracy. So the Vedic period, which starts around 1500 BC, and the later Vedic period, which continues up to 600 BC, the period of nearly 1000 years can be considered as the Vedic age. This 1000 years of Vedic age should be mentioned in the first introduction. And see, here the introduction gives a glimpse of the important changes in this 1000 years. The important changes are marked by evolution. So it is a progression of society. It is a progression of society from a simple to a complex political, social, and economic society, from a pastoral nomadism to a settled culture. Pastoral nomadism to settled culture. See, this is our introduction for the given question. See, this is a model answer. You can write an effective answer, but these are the important elements which needs to be highlighted in the given introduction. One is the chronology, the period, and second, a glimpse of the important changes in field of society, polity, and economy, and the evolutionary trends. These are being discussed in the introduction. Now, straight away coming to the body. We all know the important markers in economic and social change. Subject is known for everyone, but how do we present is important. So, it is easy to present the content in a tabular form such that we will be highlighting each and every aspect of the given question. So, in the half, first topic is about society, and first topic is about economy. So, we will be discussing the differences or changes in economy from Rigvedic age to later Vedic age. See the first 2 points. The first 2 points were introduced as a giving a context to the relative changes in these periods. They specifically mention about the time period and the geographical extent where the people lived, what are the settlements. See, in the Rigvedic age, the Aryans lived in the Saptasindhu region in the northwest, whereas by later Vedic age, by the end of 8th century BC, they expanded up to Bihar region. So it signifies the evolution and development of Aryans to new areas. And now, see here we can identify the important markers of economic change in the form of the difference in economic structure, the major base of economy, whether it is agriculture or pastoralism, the economic angle of trade and barter system, any existence of coinage, and overall picture about the economy, taxation, and land ownership. See, these are the important aspects through which we are analyzing or discussing the changes from Rigvedic to later Vedic age. They together account for nearly 5 to 8 points which are specific to economy. See, the economic structure shifted from pastoral nomadism. We all know the subject. I'm just giving the structure of how do we present it. The economic structure from pastoral nomadism to sedentary agriculture, sedentary agriculture and rise of crafts. So here we highlight the rise of primary and secondary activities. Primary and secondary activities. See, here we gave the example of Shatapada Brahmana. The Shatapada Brahmana, which highlights existence of 18 crafts in the period. This is an important example highlighting the development in this period. Next, the next point explains about the shift in the society from the Rigvedic period to later Vedic period, where agriculture has become the mainstay in the later Vedic period. In the Rigvedic period, nomadism and pastoralism was the mainstay, but it has given rise to agriculture as the main economic occupation by later Vedic period. Here also we gave the example of the story of Videha Madhava, where he expands agriculture by clearing forests. The forests were cleared by using fire for expansion of agriculture. Examples are very important. Similarly, the third point is on trade and barter system. The Rigvedic period had no evidence of an organized trade, but barter prevailed through the exchange of cows and a form of bullion called nishka. Similarly, this particular aspect has led to new developments in the later Vedic age in the form of coinage. New coins emerged, new trade system promoted by the rise of Janapadas, the political states. They promoted trade. And specifically with respect to coinage, the early Vedic age has no reference or no direct reference to any usage of coinage. But specifically, the later Vedic age has reference of coins, particularly Nishka, Pana, and Krishnala. These were coins made of copper, gold, and silver, which were used for exchange. They were used for exchange. So there is an element of trade by the later Vedic period. Similarly, the other important aspect of economic change is the Shift in ownership or shift in ideology or perception of economy. Earlier, it was largely tribal economy. The tribe or the jana has collective right over all, whether it may be the men, the material, the cattle wealth, or all. The tribe became a central force in the Rigvedic period. But by the later Vedic period, the important shift we can observe is giving rise to individual land ownership and private property. Now, instead of collective ownership, instead of collective land ownership, the shift is towards private property. They gave emphasis on individual rights, individual wealth, and private property. Next, other important aspects of economic change from Rigvedic to later Vedic age is taxation. Taxation in the early period was not established or it was largely voluntary. The people shared their produce, especially the share in their produce or the share in the war booty was shared by the king as a voluntary offering by the people. It was voluntary during Rigvedic period, and there was no any elaborate mechanism to collect these produce. The king relied on voluntary offerings by the group to the Rajan, whereas by the later Vedic age, this Bali and Bhaga they became regular taxes. See, what is the difference between these two? A tax is a mandatory payment paid by the citizen or subject to the authority, ruling authority, whether it may be a state run by a monarch, whether it may be a tribal oligarchy or an aristocracy, but it is a mandatory payment. Here, the people has a direct obligation to pay for the services provided by the state. And even in this period, the later Vedic age witnessed the rise of bureaucracy. Means we have specific officials like Balisadaka and Bhagadugga. Even there is a tax collector called Sangrahitri Sannidata. Their essential duty is to collect the taxes and maintain the royal treasury. This signifies the evolution in the economy from Rigvedic to later Vedic period. Similarly, as we discussed, the final point, the land ownership shifted from collective tribal ownership to territorial authority. Earlier, the main aim of political economy. See, here listen the term political economy. Earlier in the Rigvedic period, the political economy was centered around cows. That's why the early Vedic people fought battles for cattle wealth. Similarly, this political economy by the later Vedic period shifted towards the favor of land, territorial conquest. Territorial acquisition became an important aspect of political economy. And to suggest or to promote this political economy, numerous sacrifices called Ashwamedha sacrifice, Rajasuya, and Vajpaya sacrifices were performed to showcase the political power and also the land acquisition, the territorial spirit of the rulers. They form the important aspects of economic change. See, these are the important aspects of economic change during this period. Now, after discussion of this half, now we have effectively covered the first half of the question where they asked about the important changes in the economy. Now coming to the second part. The second part specifically focuses on the changes in the field of society, how the society responded or evolved from the Rigvedic age to later Vedic age. Here also we have a definite aspects on which terms we will be discussing the evolution or change in the society. See, see, one is the social structure, how the society existed. Is it hierarchical? Is it egalitarian? Or what is its basic structure? That is an important metric of social change. And the second one is the status of women, how women existed in the respective periods. Is there any change? And what kind of change? Is it positive or negative? And the third one, the emergence of institutions, the institutions of marriage, the institutions of legal systems, the institutions, they witnessed significant changes over these periods. And the next one is social equality, how the society existed and how the society transformed over the periods. We will be discussing about the equality, social equality, and also the perspectives of the society, how they perceived themselves. Were they materialistic? Were they more philosophical, or what is their perspective towards life and all? All these aspects will be discussed in the social change. So, in the first aspect, the social structure, which used to be flexible and more or less egalitarian, shifted to a drastically complex and hierarchical system. It is essentially based on birth by Varna hierarchy. See, the Rigvedic social structure was largely flexible. There is no compulsion of Varna hierarchy. The Varna is also flexible depending on the occupation of the individual. The Varna was largely based on occupation. But by the later Vedic age, the Varna system has become rigid, such that it was determined by birth, leading to Varna hierarchy. This Varna hierarchy restricted flexibility, leading to strong and emergence of unequal society. Next, another important changes from the Rigvedic to later Vedic age, particularly in terms of society, is emergence of new systems, emergence of the concept of Varnashrama Dharma and the Gotra systems. See, here the important aspect of Varnashrama Dharma is every Varna, the Brahman, Kshatriya, Shudra, and Vaishya, has a destined role. They have definite occupations. They have definite occupations, and these are designed according to the hierarchy. These occupations were destined to maintain the hierarchy of the Varna order. See, the Varna, Ashrama, and Dharma. Dharma was added as a rule such that they should not break. The order should be enforced, the hierarchy should be enforced. It should not be broken or it should not be tampered. That's why it is called Varnasrama Dharma. Dharma essentially means a rule or law which should be respected and followed. Here, this Varnasrama Dharma, which was imposed by the legal texts, these are Dharmashastras. These are the legal texts which imposed the Varnashrama Dharma such that the social hierarchy is maintained. Next, another important aspect of social change is the status of women. The status of women can be stated as degraded from the Rigvedic to the later Vedic period, where the women who enjoyed more or less equal rights, they had access to education, they participated in political assemblies, and even there are exam instances of people or particularly women who is fighting in battles. The story of Vishpala can be identified in the Rigveda, but by the later Vedic period, the condition of women completely altered. They were restricted to the household. They were made out of education system, particularly the asrama system, which divided the human life into four different zones or four different phases. of human life restricted women from access to education. The four phases of brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa were restricted only to the upper three varnas and only to the male members of the upper three varnas. Only to male members of upper three varnas. So, in a way, it is a degraded condition for women. Next, continuing the status of women, the institution of marriage. The institution of marriage is very important because it is fundamental to the rise of family. See, family form the basic unit of social organization. Family is the basic unit of social organization, which is formed through the union of two people or two groups through marriage. This institution of marriage during the early Vedic period was largely flexible with no varna restrictions. Even the girls has the right to choose her husband, have the freedom to choose her or exercise her right. Whereas by the later Vedic period, severe restrictions emerged, particularly with respect to marriage, especially marriage became very rigid through two systems. One is Gotra. Gotra means a system where the successors or descendants of same ancestor cannot marry among themselves. And similarly, they also introduced Varna endogamy. Means people of same Varna should marry. Means a Brahman boy should not marry a Kshatriya girl or a Kshatriya or a Shudra girl. Similarly, it applies to the woman also. These restrictions imposed on marriage led to new developments in the society. There were positive and negative developments. Especially, there emerged new practices of pratiloma and anuloma marriages. Pratiloma and anuloma marriages, they were essentially intervarna marriages. Intervarna marriages. See here, Anuloma means a high class boy or a high Varna boy married a low Varna girl. This is partially accepted by the society. A high Varna, a Brahmin boy marrying a Shudra woman. This is partially accepted. Whereas the second one is Pratiloma, Pratiloma marriage. Pratiloma marriages is the reverse where a higher Varna girl marries a lower Varna boy, particularly a Brahmin girl marrying a Shudra boy. This is considered as a taboo. This is considered as a taboo in a society where the offsprings, the children, are considered as panchamas or chandal. They are called as panchamas or chandalas. So untouchable. The concept of untouchability emerged from this practice of pratiloma marriage, where the offsprings of intervarna marriages, especially the pratiloma kind, were considered as untouchable or panchamas, means the fifth category outside the fourfold varna system. Similarly, apart from these interesting developments in the later Vedic period, the period also witnessed other important developments in the form of crystallizing eight types of marriages. Eight types of marriages. Eight types of marriages emerged in this period. They also reflected the domination or authority of the Varna hierarchy in social institutions of family and marriage. Next, Other aspects of social equality. In the Rigvedic period, the society was largely equal and flexible. Anybody can do any occupation. And one who studies Vedas or interested in knowledge is considered as a Brahmin, whereas his son or his family member who is interested in crafts, he is a Shudra. Who engages in battles is considered as a Kshatriya. So there was absolute flexibility in the social and economic structure. But by the later Vedic period, the Varnashrama Dharma was enforced strictly, ensuring the dominance and hierarchy of the Brahmanas, such that they were restricted to the sacred spaces of learning, officiating sacrifices, and performing rituals, whereas the Shudras were restricted to serve the upper three Varnas. They were mandated to serve the upper three Varnas by this Varnasrama order. Similarly, other important aspects of change from the Rigvedic to the later Vedic period in terms of society as a whole is in the early Vedic period, the perception of the society was largely materialistic, where they worshipped gods or they were engaged in wars essentially to gain more cattle wealth and more kids. It's simply called Pashu and Praja. Pashu and Praja. But by the later Vedic age, the important developments was the ideology or the perception shifted mere from mere political or materialistic gains to larger goals. The philosophical development, the idea of spirituality and salvation emerged in these periods, especially this period witnessed the development of complex sacrifices and rituals which were enforced the Varna order and enforced a new social life enforcing the Varnasrama order. See, they form the important changes in the later Vedic period. Now, summarizing the above economic and social changes, we can conclude that the later Vedic age signifies an evolution of a primitive or nomadic or pastoral society into an organized, crystallized, hierarchical society. Here, the important aspects is organized, crystallized, and hierarchical society. See, this is how we present an answer for the question. Underline the changes in the field of economy and society from Rigvedic to later Vedic age.